Everyone thought the little girl was afraid of the man. No one realized she was afraid because of someone else. And no one expected the truth to turn the entire store upside down. The grocery store buzzed with the usual chaos. Shopping carts clanking, scanners beeping, voices overlapping in careless noise. But Lily heard none of it. Silence was her world. She stood near the cereal aisle, small fingers clenched tightly around the strap of her faded backpack. Her eyes flicked from the shelves to the reflections in the freezer doors, scanning, watching, calculating. Every few seconds she shifted her weight, as if ready to run. Behind her, a man paused near the end of the aisle. Tall. Early 30s. A jacket worn thin at the elbows. His cart held only a few items: bread, milk, apples, a box of pasta. Ordinary. Forgettable. But Lily noticed him immediately. Her heart thudded hard in her chest as she took 2 quick steps forward, then stopped. She glanced over her shoulder. The man stopped too. Her breathing became shallow. Lily had learned early that danger didn't always shout. Sometimes it followed quietly, patiently, waiting for the right moment. Her mother had taught her that before she passed away. Since then, Lily trusted her instincts more than anything else. She moved again, this time toward the front of the store. So did he. Her fingers began to tremble. Near the checkout lanes, Lily spotted the cashier, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and tired shoulders. Lily hesitated only a second before stepping forward and gently tugging on the woman's sleeve. The cashier looked down, confused. "Oh, sweetie? Are you lost?" Lily shook her head sharply. Her hands lifted into the air, moving fast, urgent, desperate. The cashier blinked. I don't understand." Lily's signing became sharper, her movements more frantic. Her eyes filled with tears, not loud, not dramatic, but heavy with fear. Another customer noticed and leaned closer. A security guard glanced over from near the entrance. Finally, the cashier caught the meaning, not the words, but the emotion. Her smile faded. She leaned in, watching Lily's hands more carefully. And then she understood enough. Her face strained of color. She turned slowly, carefully, toward the man standing just a few feet away. The cashier swallowed. The guard stepped closer. The air changed. The woman straightened and spoke louder now, her voice tight. "Sir, can you come here for a moment?" The man looked up, startled. "Me?" "Yes," the guard said, already moving. "We need to talk." Lily took a step back, shrinking into herself. Whispers rippled through the checkout lanes. "What happened? Why is security involved? That girl looks terrified." Phones slipped into hands. Eyes narrowed. Judgments formed in seconds. The guard placed himself between Lily and the man. "Sir, the girl says you've been following her." The man's brow furrowed in confusion. "What? I don't even know her." The guard's tone hardened. "Then why were you walking behind her through multiple aisles?" The man opened his mouth, then closed it again. He glanced at Lily, at her shaking hands, her pale face, her eyes locked on the floor. Slowly, deliberately, he raised both palms in the air. "I was following her," he said calmly. The store erupted. "What? Did you hear that? Unbelievable." Lily flinched at the sudden movement around her. The guard's hand went to his radio. "Sir, you're going to need to. But not for the reason you think." The man continued, his voice steady despite the accusations burning into him. The guard hesitated. The man took a careful breath. "I noticed her in the parking lot. She was alone. No phone. No adult." That earned a few scoffs. "Then I saw someone else watching her," he said quietly. "A kid. Blue hoodie. Hanging back by the carts." The noise in the store dipped slightly. "I saw him circle her car twice." The man continued. "When she walked inside, he followed." "So did I." The guard glanced toward the entrance. So did the cashier. So did Lily, slowly lifting her head for the first time. The man swallowed. "I stayed close. Not touching her. Not talking to her. Just close enough so she wouldn't be alone if something happened. A beat of silence passed. Then Lily raised her hands again. Her movements were slower now. Clearer. She signed. The cashier watched closely, heart pounding. Lily pointed, not at the man, but toward the front of the store. Toward the entrance. Toward a teenager in a blue hoodie who had just taken one step backward, and then another. The guard's eyes widened. And in that moment, the story everyone thought they understood began to unravel. Once a crowd decides who the villain is, the truth has to fight just to be heard. And sometimes, it almost loses. The silence after Lily pointed felt heavier than noise. Dozens of eyes followed her finger toward the entrance, where a teenager in a blue hoodie stood frozen, one foot already angled toward the door. His face went pale as attention snapped onto him all at once. For a split second, no one moved. Then the boy laughed, too loud, too sharp. What? Me? He lifted his hands in mock confusion. I don't even know her. The sound shattered the pause. Whispers erupted again, louder this time. Teenagers these days. Why is he nervous? Maybe they both are. The guard frowned, clearly torn. He looked from the boy to the man in the worn jacket, then back to Lily. Training told him to control the nearest threat. Instinct told him something else was wrong. Everyone stay where you are, the guard said, pressing his radio. Backup requested at checkout lanes. The man didn't move. He kept his hands visible, his posture non-threatening. I know how this looks, he said quietly. But I wasn't leaving her alone. Someone scoffed behind him. Yeah, right. A woman with a toddler pulled her child closer. People like you always have excuses. The words landed hard. The man's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He kept his eyes on Lily, making sure she wasn't being crowded. Lily's chest felt tight. She hated this part, the part where adults talked about her instead of to her. The part where her silence made people uncomfortable, so they filled it with assumptions. She signed again, firmer this time. The cashier caught it. She says? The cashier hesitated, choosing her words carefully. She says she noticed the boy first. Outside. A murmur spread. The teenager scoffed again, backing closer to the door. This is ridiculous. The guard took one step toward him. Sir, I need you to stay right there. That's when the boy bolted. The motion was sudden, violent in its urgency. A cart clattered to the floor as he shoved past it, sprinting toward the exit. Stop! The guard shouted. The store exploded into chaos. The guard took off after him, radio crackling with urgent voices. Customers gasped, some stepping back, others filming openly now. The automatic doors slid open just in time for the boy to burst through. Outside, the guard tackled him near the bike rack. Inside, the noise slowly faded into stunned quiet. The man exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. Lily's knees nearly gave out. The cashier crouched beside her. You did the right thing, she said softly, even though Lily couldn't hear the words. The tone was enough. Minutes later, police officers entered the store, escorting the teenager back inside. His hoodie was twisted, his face flushed with anger and fear. One officer spoke firmly. We're going to ask you some questions. The boy said nothing. Another officer approached Lily and knelt, making sure to stay at her eye level. Do you have someone who can help interpret? He asked the cashier. The man in the jacket stepped forward slowly. I can, he said. A little. The officer studied him for a moment, then nodded. All right. Help us understand. Lily looked up at the man. Their eyes met. She saw no anger there. No pressure. Just patience. She began to sign. She explained how she felt watched in the parking lot. How the boy stood too close. How he smiled when she looked scared. How the man appeared afterward, not touching, not speaking, just staying near. The man translated carefully, faithfully, never adding a word of his own. The store felt smaller as the truth took shape. One officer pulled out the teenager's phone. Mind if we take a look? The boy's silence said everything. The screen lit up. Photos. Taken from behind a car. From inside the store. Blurry, zoomed, unmistakably focused on Lily. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The officer locked the phone and looked at the man. You may have prevented something very serious. The man shook his head slightly. I just didn't leave. The guard returned, breathing hard, guilt written across his face. He looked at the man, then at Lily. I'm sorry, he said quietly. The man nodded once. Lily signed again, her hands shaking, but not from fear this time. She signed toward the man. The officer smiled gently. She's thanking you. The man swallowed, emotion tightening his throat. But the moment wasn't over yet. Because across the store, sitting quietly on a bench near the window, a small girl with the same careful hands and observant eyes had been watching everything unfold. And she was about to step forward. The truth had surfaced. But truth doesn't erase fear. Sometimes, it exposes something even deeper. The little girl by the window stood up slowly. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her shoes didn't quite touch the floor as she slid off the bench, and the purple hair clip holding back her curls was crooked, like it had been put on in a hurry. She clutched a stuffed rabbit to her chest as she walked toward the checkout lanes. People noticed her immediately. Not because she was loud, she wasn't, but because of the way she moved her hands. Carefully. Deliberately. Signing. The man's breath caught. Emma, he said softly. Lily turned, confused, as the smaller girl approached. Emma stopped a few feet away and raised her hands, her eyes wide but steady. She signed to Lily. Are you okay? Lily blinked in surprise. Then slowly she nodded. Emma's shoulders relaxed. She turned to the adults and signed again, more confidently now. My dad told me to wait here. The cashier's hand flew to her mouth. The officer crouched again, all flickering across his face. She's deaf too? The man nodded. Since birth. Emma walked over to him and slipped her small hand into his. He squeezed it gently, grounding both of them. She was watching, he said quietly. She always watches. Lily stared at them, the matching movements, the shared silence, the understanding that didn't need sound. Something inside her cracked open. The officer straightened. Sir, we're going to need a formal statement from you. Of course, the man replied. As they spoke, another officer continued examining the teenager's phone. The boy now sat slumped in a chair, wrists resting heavily on his knees, bravado gone. There are more photos, the officer said grimly. Not just today. The store seemed to shrink again. Different locations. The officer continued. Different girls. A chill passed through the room. The guard closed his eyes briefly. He's been doing this a while. Lily felt sick. Emma noticed immediately. She squeezed Lily's hand without asking. The simple contact steadied her. Emma signed gently. You're safe now. Lily nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Nearby, a woman who had accused the man earlier shifted uncomfortably. Her eyes filled with shame. One by one, heads bowed. Phones were lowered. The crowd that had been so quick to judge now stood silent. The officer returned to the man. You recognize the signs? The man nodded slowly. I've taught my daughter to recognize them. I had to teach myself first. He glanced at Emma. Her mother used to say the world isn't built for people who can't hear danger coming. The words settled heavily. So I learned to watch. He continued. I learned patterns. Distance. Body language. The officer exhaled. You did everything right. Emma looked up at her father and signed. You followed the rules. He smiled faintly. I followed you. Lily watched them, her chest tight with emotion she didn't yet have words for. The officer turned back to Lily. Do you have family we can call? Lily hesitated. She signed slowly. My mom is gone. My aunt works nights. I shop alone sometimes. The man's jaw tightened, not in anger, but concern. Emma signed quickly to her father. She's brave. He nodded. She is. The cashier stepped forward. I can stay with her until her aunt comes. Lily signed a thank you. Time passed strangely after that, stretched and compressed all at once. Statements were taken. The teenager was led away, his head down, the weight of consequences finally real. The police cleared the man completely. But as the tension eased, something else lingered, something fragile and unfinished. Lily turned to the man once more. She lifted her hands. Why didn't you leave? She sighed. He met her gaze, eyes soft. Because someone stayed for my daughter once. Emma looked up sharply. He smiled at her. Before I learned how. Lily's hands trembled as she signed again. People thought you were bad. He nodded. I know. That didn't make you stop. No, he agreed. Emma stepped forward and signed to Lily, her movements small but confident. Sometimes good people look scary. Lily let out a silent laugh through her tears. The officer cleared his throat gently. There's something else, he said. Given what we found on that phone, this case is going to matter. He looked at Lily. You helped stop him. The words landed like a weight, and a gift. Lily signed slowly, absorbing it. Across the store, the automatic doors slid open again. This time not for danger, but for someone running inside, eyes frantic, breathless with fear. Lily's aunt? And Lily suddenly realized just how much had changed in a single afternoon. The apology came too late. The judgment came too fast. But the truth had finally found its voice. Lily's aunt burst through the automatic doors, her eyes wild with panic, scanning every face until they landed on Lily. She ran forward and wrapped her niece in a fierce embrace, hands shaking as she held her. I'm sorry, she kept saying, over and over, though Lily couldn't hear the words. The meaning was clear in the way her aunt clung to her, the way her shoulders rose and fell with guilt and relief. Lily returned the hug, gently at first, then tighter. The officer waited until they separated before speaking, his tone calm and respectful. He explained what had happened, choosing his words carefully, making sure Lily's aunt understood the gravity and the outcome. Her face strained of color as he mentioned the photos. Then she looked at Lily, then at the man, and finally she bowed her head. I thought she'd be safe, the aunt whispered, voice cracking. The man shook his head. You didn't fail her, he said softly. The world failed to notice. The aunt swallowed hard. Thank you, she said, her voice breaking, for not walking away. Emma stood beside her father, holding his hand tightly. Lily noticed her again, noticed how calm she looked, how familiar this world of watchfulness seemed to her. The officer cleared his throat. There's more we need to explain. He described what they'd found on the phone. The pattern. The escalation. The likelihood that Lily's courage had stopped something far worse. Lily's aunt covered her mouth, tears spilling freely now. Lily felt something shift inside her, not fear, not relief, but something new. Strength. A woman from the crowd stepped forward hesitantly, the same woman who had pulled her child away earlier. Her eyes were red, her voice trembling. I judged you, she said to the man. Out loud. In front of everyone. The store seemed to hold its breath. I was wrong, she continued. And I'm ashamed. The man nodded once. I understand, he said. Fear makes us fast. Not accurate. Another voice joined in. Then another. I'm sorry. We assumed. We should have listened. The apologies stacked up, quiet but sincere. The guard approached last. He removed his cap, rubbing the back of his neck. I've been doing this job 10 years, he said. And I still almost got it wrong. He looked at Lily. Thank you for pointing. Lily nodded shyly. Emma tugged at her father's sleeve and signed quickly. They're learning. He smiled faintly. So are we. The officer turned to the man. Sir, you're free to go. But if you're willing, we'd like you to come by the station later this week. There's a community safety program we think you'd be perfect for. The man blinked in surprise. Me? You recognize something others didn't, the officer said. That matters. The man glanced at Emma. She grinned and signed excitedly. You help people. He laughed quietly. Looks like it. As the crowd slowly dispersed, the store felt different, lighter, quieter, more human. Lily stood near the exit with her aunt, ready to leave, when she paused. She turned back. The man was kneeling to Emma's level, signing something that made her giggle. Lily raised her hands. The man noticed immediately and turned toward her. She signed carefully, choosing each movement with intention. You followed me. People got angry. You stayed anyway. He watched her hands' eyes warm. She continued. Thank you for not disappearing. His throat tightened. He nodded once, unable to trust his voice. Emma stepped forward and signed too, her movements bright and certain. You're brave. Lily smiled, really smiled, for the first time that day. The aunt placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. Ready? She asked gently. Lily nodded. But before they walked out, the officer called after them. There's one more thing, he said. Because of today, we're recommending the store install visual alert systems and sign language assistance training. The cashier gasped softly. Really? The officer nodded. It's overdue. Lily felt a rush of warmth spread through her chest. Change. It was happening. As Lily and her aunt stepped outside, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in soft golds and blues. Lily took one last look back through the glass doors. The man met her gaze. He lifted his hand and signed one final thing. You're safe. Lily nodded. But as they walked away, Lily realized something else. This story wasn't over. Because sometimes, the moment that saves you is only the beginning. Heroes don't arrive with sirens. They don't announce themselves. Most of the time, they just refuse to leave. Weeks passed, but the grocery store never quite felt the same again. Lily noticed it the first time she returned with her aunt. Bright new signs hung near the entrance, visual alert icons, simple diagrams explaining how to ask for help using basic sign language. Near the customer service desk, a small placard read, Sign language assistance available. People noticed Lily now. Not in the way that made her shrink, but in a way that made space for her. The cashier waved and signed in awkward but enthusiastic. Hello? Lily smiled and signed back. Change had roots. Lily had seen them grow. Across town, in a quiet community center, folding chairs scraped against the floor as people settled in. Parents. Store employees. Security guards. A few teenagers. At the front of the room stood a man with a worn jacket and nervous hands. He cleared his throat. My name is Daniel, he said. I'm not a hero. I'm just a dad. Emma sat in the front row, feet swinging, eyes bright with pride. Daniel spoke about patterns. About watching without invading. About how to help without frightening someone who already felt vulnerable. He taught a few basic signs, help, safe, wait, and explained why distance could be protection, not threat. People listened. Some cried. Some took notes. Across the room, an officer nodded quietly. A cashier sat beside a mother and her deaf son, practicing signs under her breath. The ripple widened. One afternoon, Lily and her aunt passed the grocery store and saw a small crowd gathered, not in panic, but in curiosity. A banner hung near the entrance, Community Safety and Sign Language Day. Lily's heart fluttered. Inside, Emma spotted her first and ran over, signing excitedly. You came! Lily laughed silently and signed back. I wanted to see. Daniel joined them, smiling. Hey, he said gently. Lily signed slowly, confidently now. People listen to you. He shook his head. They listened to stories. Yours helped. Lily looked down, then up again. I was scared. I know. Daniel signed carefully. Being brave doesn't mean you weren't. Emma squeezed Lily's hand. You helped lots of people. They spent the afternoon together, teaching signs, drawing pictures, laughing without sound but with understanding. As the sun dipped low, Lily's aunt spoke quietly with Daniel near the exit. I judged you too, she admitted. At first. Daniel smiled kindly. Most people did. I'm glad you didn't walk away, she said. So am I, he replied. Before leaving, Lily hesitated. She signed one last question to Daniel. Will you always follow? He considered it, then signed back with a smile. Only until you're not alone. Lily nodded, feeling the truth settle inside her. That night, Lily wrote in her notebook, the one she used to draw when words felt too heavy. She drew two figures walking through a store. One small, one tall. Not touching, not chasing, just close enough. Above them, she wrote carefully, protection doesn't make noise. Months later, Lily no longer shopped alone, but not because she was afraid. She volunteered. She helped teach other kids how to sign for help. She stood near the entrance sometimes, watching, not with fear, but with awareness. Daniel still came by occasionally with Emma. They'd wave, sign, smile. No one stared anymore. They understood. And somewhere, in a world that often mistook silence for weakness, a little deaf girl had changed how people listened, without ever making a sound. Because the most shocking thing wasn't that the man followed her. It was that he stayed. End of story.